Well, thanks again for coming, everybody. This is just a great turnout. Beverly's not speaking tonight for a couple reasons, and most of you know she has MSA, and it affects her voice. Her voice sometimes just does things she doesn't want it to do. Yeah, mine does, but they're curse words usually. Uh, but the volume is not very well. Sometimes it's hard to hear. At least that's my excuse, and but it's because of the MSA, and she tires easily. I mentioned that earlier. But she wants you to leave here tonight feeling better than when you came. And so that's our goal tonight, okay? We have a program of family and colleague speakers, and then we're going to break for cake. So stick around. We're going to break for cake. If you have to leave, that's fine. We'll miss you. But I'd encourage you to at least stay around for cake. And then afterwards, those of you that want to say something as we have time, you're welcome to come up and say a few words. We'd appreciate it. Beverly would appreciate it. There's many people here tonight that she cares about. And she told me I couldn't speak, but she was overruled on that. So anyway, there's a lot of people she cares about, and she loves sharing the memories. So let me ask the Queen Mum a question. Yeah, you weren't expecting this. Do you remember where you were in August of 1952?
53.
53?
Oh, very well.
You did? Where were you?
Right here.
Oh, yes, I was here.
You were here. You almost got your wedding reception.
Thinking of children's birthdays.
So this is where her and Sam had their wedding reception in 1953. As you walk out the door, turn right, and there's Sam and Queen Mum's, we call her the Queen Mum, Mary Ann Williams brick. And right next to that brick is Beverly Wilson's brick. So take a look. Just to the right of the door, the very first two. And so they were celebrating their wedding in this building. For many of you, this may be the last time you see Beverly. And for her family, it may be the last time they're all together. But the Queen Mom and the siblings, the children, and all 235 of her cousins are here too. Every time I was writing on a name tag, cousin. You all from Kentucky? But then again, none of us know when the last time is that we'll see our loved ones. I was 15 when I lost my brother. He was 23. See you later, he said to his wife Kay as he left the house that day, to his wife and his son Bob, on his way to work June 30th, 1966. And that's the last we saw him alive. It was an industrial accident. It's a tragedy. But it teaches us lessons, and my point is, think about what you say to people. What will be the last thing you say to them? We never know. We just never know. So this is a joyous celebration tonight. I was thinking months ago that a lot of you would come to her funeral and say nice things. How nice it would be to have you all here so she could hear them. And I ran that by her. And you know, she's a grief counselor. So she knows this stuff. And she's faced this absolutely head on. And she says, oh, that'd be wonderful. I says, well, let's have it in the church basement and have cake. She says, let's have it at Cascades Manor House. Okay, sure enough. And so we did, and I'm glad of that. She's been geeked for the last month planning this. So it's not a time for sadness tonight, but a time for joy. God is good. He brought us here together to share some stories and just have a good time. I want you to know Beverly's one strong woman. She's brave and courageous, tenacious and smart. She's a kid magnet. She's always kind, always open-minded, well-traveled. She could qualify for a Boy Scout, you know, the trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous thing. Reverent. Her mantra has been, I don't want to come to the end of my life and say, I wish I would have, but rather, I'm glad I did. And she's lived her life that way. Live simply, speak kindly, and care deeply, and that's her motto. She's accepted with grace the hand she's been dealt and looked on the positive side. God's granted her the time to prepare for this. She's embarked on a legacy project planned for the Somerset Cemetery. It's behind her beloved Somerset Congregational Church. Many of you may know she was a labor and delivery nurse for a long time, long portion of her career. She loved nursing, 40 years. And she experienced firsthand the grief that parents go through when they lose a child, either before birth or after birth. And a lot of times they're young families and they don't have the means to take care of burial or remembrance for the kids. So that's one of the reasons she became a bereavement counselor. And so she's purchased a large plot at Somerset, and it will be donated to parents who need a place for their child, those parents that are grieving. And Pastor Lucas at Somerset will be responsible for overseeing who qualifies. And near the center, she's commissioned a local sculptor, Tony Frudakis, to produce a near life-size figure of a mother and a couple children. The design is in the works right now. And the clay models will be designed and selected, and it'll take about a year or so for the statue to be built, but it'll be near life-size. And then there'll be an area for plaques for the remains, or maybe not the remains of children that don't have no remains. And she set a significant amount of money aside to make sure this happens. She's also set up a scholarship program at her alma mater, Agnes Scott College, for nursing students because she's been so proud to be a nurse. So she's touched so many people in so many ways, in ways she doesn't even know. But I've never met anyone that doesn't like her. She's the only person I can think of that doesn't have an enemy in this world. Wish I could say that. Anyway, I've never heard her say a discouraging word ever. I've heard her with the computer help people on the phone with patience way beyond where I would have, and she never was rude. She's always positive, always kind, always. So let's get back to the stories. It's always about the stories with Beverly. Everything in her house, she's got a picture on the wall, there's a story pasted on the back. There's a newspaper pasted on the back. There's a story about everything. And I get to hear those stories, and they're great stories. They're things that just stick with her. She'll strike a conversation with anyone. And she will listen to them with deep interest. That's why she became a therapist. And so your presence here tonight is important because she wants to hear your stories. Believe me, she loves that. And if we don't have time to get to your story, take a moment to write it on one of the cards and make sure you share it with us. But there's some lessons here for all of us. Life is 100% terminal. It would be nice if we knew what our best if used by date was. Maybe we had it printed here, best if used by. So what's yours? But there's blessings in all things. This blessing here is that Beverly's had time to prepare. She's had time to gift away her mementos and her things to people that will cherish those things. And so she can share those stories with them about the importance. She once told me that she just wants to feel cherished. Sometimes I miss the clues. It's tough getting old. I get emotional. I didn't used to be this way. So anyway, I missed the clues, but not this one. She wants to be cherished, so let's make that happen. We've come to share some memories. Sam, you're on. This is Beverly's beloved brother, Sam, her favorite brother.
That's right. I got that title. It's on my badge. Favorite. I didn't ask for that. She gave that to me. First of all, I'd like to say thank you all for coming. I don't know a lot of you, but I know I'm related to a lot of you somehow or other. This is my daughter down here, Anna, and I've been telling her for some time. Anna, you're related to about half of Jackson, Michigan, but... So I wanted to thank you all for coming. I also want to thank Randy Collar for setting this all up. He's done an incredible job for doing all this, pulling all this together, scheduling flights, getting people in, picking up people at the airports and baggage, and he's done an amazing job getting us all here. So I want to thank him for doing that for us. Randy mentioned the brick out in the front, and my mother and father, they did their wedding reception here. And what I'm going to tell you is rather scandalous. This is a family secret. Not many people know about it, and she didn't tell me about this till I was a late teenager. Her and my father eloped. And then they came back, and then they said, all right, we're going to have a wedding celebration for the family. But that's... They went off and got married. They didn't get married here. They eloped. Then they came back here for the family to do that. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. The scandal in the Williams family. I wanted to tell you about my older sister, Beverly. She is my older sister, Beverly. Yeah. She can't reach me. I can outrun her now. She always told me I was adopted. For the longest time, she told me I was adopted. Can you imagine that? To tell your little brother that he was adopted. And one day, well, she told me that the Indians left me on a rock out in the woods and they found me there. One day I discovered that that wasn't the story. She was actually the one that was adopted and not me. That family kept her for a whole day, and they gave her back, and they said, please, we don't want her. So, since she was older than me, she always tried to tell me that she was older and wiser than me. She never said that she was brighter than me. We all knew that. She could never claim to be brighter than me. I was the only one that they called son, so I got that title too. Sometimes they could just call me Sonny. On the night that she was born, I want to tell you, I was asking my mom if she had any stories about this, and I said, what about the night she was born? My mom couldn't really remember, so I'm wondering about some of these things. She did say that it was a dark and stormy night. The power went out. My dad was really nervous. The power went out right before she was born, so we don't know any other details other than that. Aliens could have been involved, flying saucers, we don't know. It was just dark, and there she is. In all seriousness, I wanted to tell you, her two greatest gifts, these two. She's got two young men that are her greatest gifts. She's very proud of those boys. She always had a servant's heart. We know this. When she was going through school, she worked in nursing homes. And she wanted to be a nurse. You don't go into that without a servant's heart. You have to have a servant's heart. So that's part of her character that I always admired about her. She likes to serve. She likes to entertain. We know this because I've heard so many stories about this New Year's bingo party that she would always have. I could never quite make it up here 1,000,000 miles away, but I always heard it sounded like a lot of fun. She always liked to have a lot of people over at her house. And I think that if her house wasn't being emptied out right now, she would have us all over there instead of here. I think she would rather do that. She loved to entertain, loved to serve. I wanted to say, finally, before I hand this over to James, I wanted to say that it's an honor to have Bev as my big sister. And happy birthday. Thank you. James, you're up. This is James Anderson, long-term family friend of ours from Pensacola. He made the ride all the way up from Pensacola to get here for this. And he's going to tell.
Well, I knew what I was going to say, and then I got here and I looked at the piece of paper I was given, and I went from family to childhood, and that got me thinking about something. We grew up in Pensacola together. I was the youngest of 4 sons in the Anderson family, and Sam was the youngest of his family of 4 siblings. And I guess it's kind of true on both counts here that it was childhood that I spent my time with the Williams. But I got to say, I was probably one of 8 kids in the Williams Anderson family. And I had no sisters by blood, and I didn't understand them, but I did have sisters in the Williams family. And very fortunate. There was several things we were asked to talk about. And one of them was favorite memories. And one was first memories. The first clear memory I have of Beverly, well, not the first, but probably the most vivid, is when she went off to Agnes Scott. I remember her wearing this little hat, and I was still young and didn't really know a whole lot about nursing, but I remember she was going off to Agnes Scott, and that memory's always stuck with me. About 2 years ago, Beverly came back to Pensacola for a high school reunion, and my wife and I escorted her down to where it was, and it's a liberal arts reunion. And I was telling her about that and how that had stuck in my mind. We went through the night, great night down at Seville Quarter in Pensacola. Saw a lot of people. Beverly gets back in the car, and she'd had a good time. We had had a good time. She goes, "Well, you knew more people than I did there." I said, "Well, I've had a few more years in Pensacola than you have." And it got me thinking about our childhood and growing up. And as long as I remember, the Williams family was there, and many a Christmas morning would have Christmas, and we'd go over to the Williams, or they'd come over to our house and share Christmas. And we the families built a beach house out at Pensacola Beach in the early 70s together, and we shared that together. And about the same time, our farm in Molino developed, and we put horses up there, and the Williams put a horse up there, and the Andersons. So we really spent a lot of time together over the years. Beverly and my oldest brother David both went off to college about the same time, and so I spent more time with the rest of the families. But 2 years ago when she came back, this is leading to my favorite memory of Bev. She's over at my mother's house. I come in from work. I have my daughter. Come on up, Taylor. And the Williams family all went to Pensacola Christian School for at least elementary, maybe longer. And my daughter had been there 3 years. And my daughter loves to sing. She's in the kitchen, and she breaks out into this song. And I'd forgotten the Williams had gone to Pensacola Christian. And all of a sudden, Beverly breaks out into the same song. And they're in the kitchen, they're singing. And I'm like, wow, how does she know that? I was like, oh, that's right. She went to the same school a few years ago. So my daughter wants to do a quick verse and serenade Beverly. If y'all don't mind, I'd like to share my favorite memory with Beverly.
She also gave me a pen. Huh? She also gave me a Canada pen.
She also gave Taylor a Canada pen, and that's gone a long way. So, do you want to step around with her or in front of her? And do you want this?
The wise man built his house upon a rock. The wise man built his house upon a rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rain came tumbling down. The rain came down and came up. The rain came down and the floods came up. The rain came down and the floods went up, and the house on the rock stood firm.
Thank you, sweetie. Oh, that was fun.
In closing, I promise, I had a chance to meet this gentleman about a year ago when he brought Beverly down to visit us again. And I don't know who to say who here is lucky except both. You are lucky to have him, and he is lucky to have you in each other's life. I really admire the way you take care of things. I just want to thank you. And I'm going to sit down.
It's easier. Well, good evening. My name is Marion Brinker. I'm from Massachusetts. And in 1972, I met Bev, who was a freshman from Florida. That year, we were both attending Agnes Scott College just outside Atlanta, Georgia. Our classes did not overlap as she was going the biology chemistry route and I was a history major. However, we had other mutual interests such as camping and doing some different things. One time, several of us went camping at Stone Mountain, a bus ride away from school. I remember waking up to a mist all around us, and then out of the mist and far away came the sound of bagpipes. I thought I was in Brigadoon. Then one Easter sunrise service, we again returned to Stone Mountain. A whole group of us hiked up the side of the mountain with torches that were stuck in the crevices, lighting the pathway. It was an amazing experience. And then we were rewarded with a lovely sunrise. Bev did a dear thing for me one Thanksgiving. I stayed at school, and she decided I needed something fun to do. So she came up with a treasure hunt all over campus. The final clue was in an old gym building. I had to find a certain locker. I forget if you gave me the combination lock. But when I opened the locker, there, waiting for me on the bottom, with my name on it, was a bag of M&Ms. The following June, Bev invited me down to Florida for a graduation. Was that Mandy's? Maybe. And then, of course, we had to celebrate by going to the beach. I had never, ever swum with jellyfish, and I haven't since, but that was just an amazing experience. And you know, when people move to a new place, they always say, whenever you're around, come for a visit. Well, I caught up with Bev the next time when her family had moved to Alaska. She extended the invitation, and my sister Ellen and I accepted. Jonathan and Patrick, maybe second, third, or fourth grade, very kindly gave their beds up to us for a few evenings. I remember we all climbed into a camper and went looking for a moose one evening. It was May, so the sun came up early and stayed up late. I remember not being as tired because there was so much sunlight each day. And plants and flowers grew fast and big, and a head of kale was this big. Just amazing. And another day, Bev drove us down Turnagain Arm to Portage Glacier, which we could see right from the visitor center. The blues, the intense blues, those shades, just absolutely extraordinary. And the following day, a pilot friend flew us to Sweatin, I think it was, and we landed at a tiny airstrip in the midst of nowhere. And we had a meal in a little roadhouse and learned that they would bring in their provisions over the river prior to the spring thaw. That fascinated me. And then on our last day in Anchorage, Bev took us to a train station. Then she somehow managed to be at several crossings as the train slowly went through town. We happily waved, and even the conductor enjoyed looking to see if she would make the next crossing. We had an absolutely delightful time, and we saw Denali. It was out in full view as we rode the rails north to Fairbanks. Bev and I next met in 2000 when she invited me to come to Jackson for Memorial Day weekend. We made the front page of the Citizen Patriot. We had gone to watch the fireworks over the Cascades, and our picture was taken, actually, the back of our heads, but anyway, we were there. And during the day, we drove around Jackson, and we stopped in to see the Michigan Theater, where I purchased a mug, which I still have. And then we had breakfast with cousins, and we went to the lighthouse. Oh, it was great. Then it was my turn to invite Bev for an adventure. In 2003, I was having one of those birthdays, and I thought it'd be fun to go somewhere. 7 of us flew to Iceland for several days of discovery. It was over Easter, so we learned to say Happy Easter in Icelandic, and it goes something like Gladalega Páska. We went up to the Hallgrímskirkja, the big Lutheran church completed in 1986, for the Sunday service, which seemed very familiar, even though it was all in Icelandic. And afterwards, we went to the observation tower. The wind was blowing so strong we could hardly make it around one edge. But the view was just fantastic. All these colorful little houses and then looking over to the water. Wonderful. Then Leif Erikson's statue is in front of the church, which was a gift from the United States in 1930 in honor of the 1000th anniversary of Iceland's parliament. Pretty extraordinary. And we went out there to Thingvellir, where you could see where the parliament had been. And at that time, too, Bev was doing a little... It was something with the newspaper. She had to take a newspaper and find fascinating places to be filmed, and one of them was in front of that Leif Erikson statue. Then we went pony riding over some bleak open areas and then spent several hours relaxing in the blue lagoon in those lovely warm waters. And then we also had a fabulous journey to the Westman Yard, the Westman Islands. And we flew down in a very small plane, something you would understand. And while we were there, though, we climbed on a hill, and we were told that the reason it was so warm, I mean, it was warm because of the recent volcanic activity. Absolutely fascinating place. If you all have a chance, do go to Iceland. Then our latest adventure was in 2014. I called Bev, and the conversation kind of went like this. Hey, Bev, I want a raffle. It's for a week's stay in a little place. Yes. Some apartment with a view. Yes. In a small village built in stone by some monks. Yes. It's about 15 minutes north of the Italian Riviera in the Maritime Alps. Would you be interested in coming with Ellen and me to spend time at this place? Yes, yes, yes. So it was fascinating. We flew to London and then down to Nice. We landed with palm trees swaying in the warm summer breeze. After getting in our car, we headed east to Italy. We exited the autostrada and turned left away from the water and headed north, inland and up and back in time. After many curves and a few tunnels, we arrived at Fanghetto, a 13th century village perched on a mountain slope above the Roya River with a 2,000-year-old Roman arch bridge. And the people only got their new bridge in 1970. Absolutely fascinating. The apartment we stayed in had a great view of the river and the mountains on one side and the church steeple on the other. It was a very remote area with mountains all around. Ellen remembers hearing Bev's phone pinging each morning as the satellite went overhead, and the messages Bev was receiving or sending came through once a day. The kitchen was well stocked but small, but because the gas stove was similar to one in Bev's camper, she happily baked dinner for us. We also enjoyed dining al fresco on our rooftop. We learned that over the years, this region has changed times from Italian to French. 7 times that whole line has moved, but currently in the EU, there are no borders and the guard station is empty. The climate is dry and arid, perfect for olives. We hiked to Areol and back, an all-day trek. Another day we drove to Monaco and paid our respects to Princess Grace, then went on to see more of the French Riviera with stone beaches, but absolutely glorious blue water. Last page. On a different day's driving exploration, we drove over many mountain roads, and thanks to a GPS that Bev had brought with her, programmed by someone named Randy, we navigated our way to several delightful and charming towns in the next river valley, ending up at Dolce Acqua, a place we learned that had chanted Monet in 1884. We wandered up the hill through a maze of stone streets to the Renaissance Castle Doria and thoroughly enjoyed the quaintness of the town with a river running through it. Our trip to Fanghetto was a complete change of pace with intense quiet at night and so many stars to see and a chance to sit and rest and relax. I love that Bev has always been ready for adventure, for exploring and taking advantage of opportunities. She has a lovely way of lending her interest and bringing people together. Thank you. And now, Miss Jennifer.
Yes, look, I have a book, okay? Well, Beverly knows that it took planes, trains, and automobiles to get me here. But I got here, and I have my luggage and my suit. Woohoo! So, but Beverly and I first met Thanksgiving of 1985. I ended up marrying her husband's brother. Sorry! Okay, that's the Williams family scandal, okay?
Anna hasn't heard the story.
Our husbands were brothers. But I can remember this. Dear Lord, help me. Bruce and Peter reverted to their childhood. Bruce, my husband, pick, pick at at Peter, and they just drove us crazy. And I'm like, what? And Beverly, do you remember? You and I would just look at each other and just kind of like roll our eyes. These two, oh Lord, help me, okay? Wild hyenas, okay? He was about this tall with this little hair that stuck up, and then he was a little bit head tall. What were y'all like, 2 and? 5 and 3. Okay, 5 and 3. 5 and 3, and they were little boys, and they were wild, okay? But and just kind of moving on, I just remember, that was when we first met. But every Christmas, Bruce and I, we lived in Washington, D.C., and we'd make this big loop-de-loop through the South, okay? First stop was always the Wilsons. Was it Kennesaw? And I can remember just, so many things. But even though the boys were wild hyenas then, too, they were still wild. They were older wild hyenas. JT, let me tell you what he did. Do you remember this, Beverly? Spiders are my worst thing. Give me a snake any day. The other day there was a moccasin. Oh, come on. Don't give me a spider. He let his tarantula out of the cage in the house and couldn't find her. It was a her. And he had tried to give her a boyfriend, but she ate him, okay? So this spider is loose in the house, and this is my worst. Okay, do you remember that? You do? But their home always felt, I can remember this, we'd get there I don't know why we did it, but we did it till we finally came to our senses. We would leave at night and drive through the night, get there dead tired, okay? But Beverly always had our room ready to go, and just so we could go crawl in, and we'd crash and sleep. And Beverly, I would always wake up to these wonderful smells, something cooking in the house. And Beverly would have her hair up here like this and a little thing on her head. And she'd have on slippers and an apron. And she would zip around that kitchen and she would get things going. And something else I remember is they always had this beautiful, peaceful music playing through their house. Y'all remember that, boys? Out of Africa, remember the soundtrack to Out of Africa? It was just felt like a very place, a place of peace. And she was never flustered by all the noise and the hullabaloo. And I always thought what a cool mom she was, because see, I'd have locked him in the closet and said, just stay in there until you think you can behave yourself. Don't come out. Do y'all remember the Christmas that your mama bought you, the little sloping thing around the Christmas tree, the ski slope? Okay, well, of course, I went out and got this cute little thing you put your Christmas tree in. It was like these little, and it was this little toy. And I just loved it. So I bought one, and several years later, Patrick and I were talking, I think maybe it was Jay, maybe it was all of us. I said, do y'all remember that? And I said, I said, y'all put that out every year? And they said, are you kidding? We destroyed that the first year we ever had it. Do y'all remember that little thing? Do y'all remember destroying it? Okay. Then there was our trip to Alaska when y'all were at Elmendorf. And that was in Thanksgiving of 1989. And, they were so excited to show us all the things that they did. And let me tell you, we filled that week up with, so much stuff. Remember Thanksgiving morning? The deer? What was it? It was still dark, and it was like noon or something. And there was this beautiful herd of deer in their yard, or elk. It was elk. What was it? It was something. Moose. Okay, it was moose, okay? This herd of moose. But we were so excited about that herd of moose, seeing that. It was just so cool, and you're in Alaska, and you're seeing this. And then our camper trip. Remember our camper trip? And we went on those slides, those big round discs, and we'd slide down the hills. Ski slopes, yes. Then also, Beverly did, I don't know what you would call it, but it was kind of like an Iditarod. Okay, she went mushing. Okay, she was in this contest, and look, I have pictures of her. She is like just covered in some kind of fur from head to toe because it is cold. Okay, this is Alaska after all, and there she is. She's this picture of her smiling from ear to ear while she's just mushing these dogs, just having an absolute ball. And I too always admired her sense of adventure. She's got it. There's no doubt about it. Always willing to try anything and go anywhere, which brings me to Christmas of 1994. We'd made our big, we were headed, our big loop-de-loop through the South again. And Beverly was talking about going back to Russia. And I said, I want to go. She said, you do? I said, yes. It was a medical missions team. A medical missions, they were putting together this to take a medical missions trip there. And I'm hyperventilating. But that's where we really bonded, was on that trip. And Beverly made sure that got it all worked out so that I could go. And oh my gosh, we had two of the most incredible weeks, didn't we? It was so amazing because Beverly, it was a life-changing experience. We lived with Russian families, and it was because of Beverly making sure that as a wellness counselor, I could make that trip with those medical people. And every other day, Beverly would look at me and say, literally, isn't this amazing? Yes, 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 yes. Then every other day, I would look at her and say, this is amazing. We did that. It was just one incredible thing after the other. So, thank you, Beverly. Thank you for working that we could do that and just really, really bond over that trip. So many great things. Standing on St. Basil Square, looking at Lenin's tomb, the famous Bolshoi Ballet, the Women's and Children's Hospital. Look, y'all, we took this giant box of suture, because they didn't have any, women's and children, where babies are born. And within 15 minutes, they told us that suture was all over that hospital. It was like we'd given them gold. It was incredible. It was a pretty amazing experience. And then, remember, we went in, we were the first Americans ever to go into a military hospital. It was their best. Their best. I showed pictures to my mom, and she said, that's 1954 X-ray equipment. Remember that? It was so incredible. Then I can remember the Russians loved to dance. Did we do some dancing or what? And it was good, but we had so much fun. And one of the last times we were there, we had this dinner. And remember he was a little World War II veteran, a little wrinkled up. He was like 80s or 90s or something. And we got to dance with him. Remember, it was just, just one of those just crazy little life experiences that we talked about later. He'd never danced before, but he got up and danced with us. And boys, I just want you to know that no matter what water has gone under what bridges, your mama loves you. She is proud of you, and she loves you within an inch of your life. And you are blessed because not everybody has that in this world. So carry that with you for the rest of your lives. You are loved by your mama. And Beverly, we went through a time where we really didn't keep in touch. Just life. But I want you to know that you're the best sister-in-law a sister-in-law could ever have. I'm thankful for you in my life. And I want to leave you with the toast that I made in Russia at that last dinner that night. What made us friends in the long ago when first we met? Well, I think I know. The best in me and the best in you held each other because they knew that always and always, since time began, our being friends was part of God's plan. And then I want to just leave you with the scripture verse that just says how I feel. Get this in. It's Philippians 1, 2 through 6. Grace be unto you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. I thank my God upon every remembrance of you. Just a minute. Always in every prayer of mine for you, making request with all joy for your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it to the day of Jesus Christ. I love you.
Man, that is a tough act to follow. Okay, well, obviously, Beverly, if it wasn't going to involve fun, you were not going to do it. And if it didn't involve fun, you were going to make fun out of it. I know that. So I'm Ursula Funk, and I last saw Beverly in 2014 when she was kind enough to house my daughter and I as we were coming back from Delaware back to Reno, Nevada. And Randy was very generous to offer us an airplane ride, but I had to get back to work, so darn. Anyways, Beverly and I actually met in about 1988, I believe, somewhere's in there. We both worked for the most marvelous OBGYN, Dr. John Erkman, who's great. Little did I know, I was his office manager at the time. And little did I know when I hired Beverly not to be one of my RNs, but to be a receptionist. Hope I get through this. And you all know this, that when you met Beverly, you met an angel on earth. Anyways, got through that. So Beverly and I worked for Dr. Erkman. I'm also a nurse, did not work as a nurse at his office. We had two other wonderful nurses there, Jan and Terry. So Beverly and I both stepped outside of our field and did something different for Dr. Erkman. But as, was it Jennifer? That was saying, Jennifer? You were saying Alaska is land of the midnight sun. And one day we decided we were going to go fishing. That was Terry, our receptionist, Beverly, and myself. So Liz lived in Anchorage. Beverly lived on Elmendorf. I lived in Eagle River. So Liz went and picked up Beverly. They came and picked me up, and we decided to go up to Talkeetna to do some fishing. Now, you have to get up pretty early in the morning. Even though the sun is shining all the time, we had to be at Mahays and Talkeetna by 7 o'clock in the morning. So we had to leave about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. We're driving along. We're going across the Glen Highway, which connects the Knik and the Matanuska River. So this is actually quite a long area that we have to cross over water to get to over to the other side to get up to Wasilla. And while we're traveling along this road, Liz's car breaks down. And we decided, Beverly knew exactly what to do. There was not a problem at all. We were just gonna get out of that car and we were gonna hitchhike to Wasilla, and we were gonna call one of our other girlfriends, also a nurse from the hospital, from the office, excuse me, Terry, and Terry would come and pick us up. And that is exactly what we did. 3 35-year-old women hitchhiking out in the middle of nowheres, because Alaska really is, no matter where you are, the middle of nowheres. And we were hitching, and this guy comes along in his pickup, and he looks down at us, and he says, "Late night girls?" And Beverly, quick as a jackrabbit, she said, "No, we are going fishing." That's all he had to know. So we got Terry. We went to a phone booth, called my husband, and I said, honey, I don't know what you're doing, but just leave the Bronco at home because I am coming back to get that Bronco and we are going fishing. And that's what we did. And anyways, another one of the stories that I want to tell you about. Besides, I won't remind them. I'm going to remind you about Mr. White Keys and Skinny Dick's halfway in. You'll get it. They won't. But anyways, another trip that we took, marvelous trip with our good friend Patsy and Beverly and myself. We went up to Dawson, which is in Canada. And to get to Dawson, you have to go through Tok. And we camped out in Tok, Alaska. And we got up to Dawson, and that's where all the Canadian Mounties are. So Beverly curtsied, met all the Mounties up there. We went and saw a show. Beverly insisted we sit in the balcony, which is what we did. And we had a great time. Of course, the sun shines all the time. We had a wonderful time. And we came back, and you reminded me because we did buy M&Ms, and we ate a pound of M&Ms on our way back from Dawson to Tok, which isn't that long a ride, about, 6 hours or something like that. And we ate, 3 of us ate a whole pound of M&Ms. I'm still trying to work it off. And I'll tell you what, I just want to thank you, Randy, and thank you, Beverly, for inviting my husband and I to come. And we had a lot of good, fun times up in Alaska. That's it. Love you, babe.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Frances, and I have the distinct honor of being Beverly's beloved goddaughter. Now, there's a lot that I can say about Aunt Bev, but when she texted me and asked me to speak at this, she told me to keep it under 3 minutes. So I'm going to follow the rules, keep it under 3 minutes. But even though she is my godmother, when I was younger, I actually told Mrs. Sullivan over here that she wasn't my godmother, she was my fairy godmother. And I like to think that that is absolutely true because I think that she has all the qualities that make for a wonderful fairy godmother. And those are having a certain magical quality, making you feel very special and very loved, and finally transforming you into someone that you couldn't have been without her. So I think that Aunt Bev's magical quality really comes with her storytelling. I'm sure that many of you, at least all of you, have heard one story that Aunt Bev has told in her beautiful, slow Southern drawl. So, you know, no matter where you are immediately transported to whatever she's telling you about. So in her beautiful backyard with her garden, you can be transported to a Kenyan safari or a kayaking trip up north, or, you know, her family home in Pensacola. So I really cherish those stories, and it really is magical to hear one of them. The next duty of a fairy godmother is to make sure that you feel loved and cherished. And Bev has done this in many ways throughout my life. Not only has she sent countless postcards from wherever she's traveled, she always makes sure to send one to me. She sends me care packages throughout the year for every holiday, including back to school and St. Patrick's Day. I always get stickers and little fun cards. She always makes sure to do that. And she also has been to every single one of my birthday parties, Christmas. She always has a present for me, and that's something that I really, really love about her. She always makes sure that I feel special. But one of the many things, in addition to those, she actually kept a tiara in her Prius so that whenever we were driving together, she would be the fairy godmother and I would be the princess. And so it was like we were in a little magical chariot. She was just driving me around. I had a tiara. It was really great. But I really think that she knew that me being the 6 of 7 kids, that I needed a little extra attention compared to my older siblings, and she made sure that I felt that by putting a picture of me right between a picture of her 2 sons, Patrick and Jonathan, in her guest room. If you ever go, there's a little me in my ballet pose, and then her 2 sons, and so I'm one of the family. And she actually told me right before I came up here that I was her favorite. So I'm sorry sorry to break it to you. I'm sorry. So the final duty, the final role of a fairy godmother is to make sure that she transforms you into someone that you couldn't have been without her. And she has really done this all throughout my life, from my baptism, where she got her duty of fairy godmother, to my confirmation, my high school graduation, everything in between. Bev has really been there for me, and she has been a constant role model for me. And she has shown me through example how to live an adventurous, full life with faith at the core of everything. So I just want to raise a glass. Bev, thank you for everything that you've done for me. You have truly been the best fairy godmother. So everyone, to my fairy godmother, cheers.
Hi, Bev. You planned this, didn't you? Me going after Francis? Francis and I know each other, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about how in a minute. Because first, I represent, my name's Janet Snaden. I'm here with my husband, Mitch, who you will see a little bit later in the evening. We're from Canada, and I'm here to represent the NYPP, which is the New Year's Party People. That's what it stands for. We don't play bingo, but that is something we could consider adding to our party, because that would be really fun. We have the party at Diane's, and what I was thinking as I was listening to all the speeches and looking around the room and just being invited here is that, and I think we all know this, but we forget sometimes that it's people. People are, that's it. That's the most important thing. We have each other. And it's interesting because Diane, my friend, who I can't look at right now, however, Diane, who I've known since I was about 2, that's my connection to Beverly. And that's where we have our New Year's party. For 20 years. So Bev, we have known you for 20 years, but get this, my husband pointed this out, we've probably spent less than 30 days together. Isn't that crazy to think? So what's even more amazing is that to know each other for that long a time, and yet very few days over that many years, and to create and have such a connection. And that's because of you, Bev. I truly believe that. Memories. Okay, so Mitch and I were saying, well, when did we first meet, Bev? I said, I think it was New Year's Eve. And he said, no, I think it was Crooked Lake. And you and Patrick were there, and we were there, and our girls were little. We have 3 daughters and a son. And we were there maybe one of the first times, I'm not sure. But anyway, that was another time that we spent together at Crooked Lake, which was just so fun. But the biggest memories of the girls are Bev's salad. It has a half a cup or a cup of sugar. That's probably why. And and her pecan pie. And at New Year's Eve, everybody brings something to add because Diane's very smart. She invites a whole bunch of people and she has them bring everything. Brilliant. But so we all add something to the table, and this salad became very famous in our house. So that is that's a famous salad, and one that Carly always wants me to make because of the oranges and the bacon and it's just delicious, and perhaps the sugar. and I remember our New Year's chats and resolutions. Diane just actually pointed out, Bev, you might not be a resolution keeper. Is that true? I don't know. She has a book, believe it or not. Diane keeps a book with all of our resolutions, and we go around the table. And it's actually a good thing because it's really fun. It ends up being really fun. And then the people who don't keep their resolutions are on dishes. But I think Bev would do dishes whether she kept her resolution or not. That's the thing. And the other thing I remember is at those parties,
talking to Bev because she's genuinely interested and she listens. Not that anyone else doesn't, honestly. But do you know what I mean? She does. Like, she asks you, how are you? But then she listens until you are done talking, and she really wants to know everything. And it's a beautiful thing because you are in the moment with whoever you are with. So you make us feel important, you make us feel loved, and you truly care. And that is something that we can all learn and that we all see in you. Okay, so we also share a goddaughter, but I am the bad godmother. Francis, did you know I was your godmother? But from this moment on, Bev, I promise to step up. In fact, I think I'll start right now. I have a Bible verse, Francis. Mark 12:30 to 31. It's the greatest commandment, right? Everyone knows it. This is from the Message, so it's a little different than the traditional. Love the Lord God with all your passion and prayer and intelligence and energy. And the second, love others as well as you love yourself. And the reason I picked this, and I know Francis would agree, is that's Bev. That's you. That's your life. You are a living example of that. And it's just so true. And when I think about that, it's probably the most wonderful gift that you could ever give any of us, is having lived and living life like this. So we have been really, really blessed, and we are blessed to be your friend. And I know everyone around the New Year's party people table would say the same thing. So thank you so much for all your love and your care, and we love you so much.
My name is Irene Lacrone, and I'm representing the Faux Book Club. And the reason we call it the Faux Book Club is because we don't read books. A group of us met many, many years ago when we were all on the AWARE board of directors together, and we have some representatives from AWARE here as well as some of the old board members. And it was just a really special group of women, and we've been through a lot together, a lot. We were blessed to have each other. We really, really were fortunate to have each other. So I feel sort of honored because I really felt like Susan Denke should have been the one that gave the speech for the Faux Book Club, because she and Bev have been very, very dear friends, and they've been on lots of adventures together. They've been to Africa, they've gone camping, and Bev, I'm sure she may have a lovely goddaughter, but Susan Denke is the mother of Bev's god dog. So, and they always took Susan's dogs camping. So I'm kind of perplexed because everybody keeps talking about all these adventures that they've been on with Bev. And the only real adventure, other than just everyday life with Bev, is an adventure. But the only real adventure that I recall Bev treating me to was we went down to Tennessee to visit our friend Sue Groves, who's here. And it may have even been my turn to drive, I don't know. But Bev all of a sudden starts squealing, "Stop, pull over, stop, pull over." What did she want to share with us? Boiled peanuts. Okay, if you are not from the South, don't fall for it. I don't care what she says about it. I think you have to be from the South in order to really appreciate boiled peanuts. So every time I eat boiled peanuts, which has been once, I think of Bev. So as I said, this friendship was very, very important to all of us. And when, as a group of friends, we've been through some rough times. And when our friend Patty and her husband Joe Ritter is here representing the Ritter part of our Faux Book Club, when Patty was dying this winter, Bev wasn't really well enough to to cook and make soup and cookies. So the rest of us were cooking and making soup and dropping things off. And so Bev's responsibility was to write prayers. And so if anyone ever needs a prayer for chicken soup, I have the finest prayer for chicken soup ever that Bev wrote. And friendship is important. And I'm grateful to meet all of you today. I'm really glad I got the task of checking people in, because I have heard so many stories about all of you and the adventures that you shared with Bev. And I think Bev inspired all of us to be better people. She inspired us to be better friends. And we certainly are kinder because of it. And so I'm just grateful, and I'm very honored to represent the Faux Book Club. And someday maybe we'll read a book, but really all we really do now is the girls always want to go to my house because my husband is an amazing cook. And so we were supposed to take turns doing Faux Book Club, but Faux Book Club is pretty much always at my house because my husband's a really good cook. And so our present from Bev as she was emptying out her house was a cream whipper, because she could not believe that my husband, who owns every imaginable kitchen implement, did not have a cream whipper. So we are now the honored custodians of Bev's cream whipper. So thank you all. It was just great to meet all of you. Paddlers, come on, you're up. They had a much healthier relationship with Bev than we did, because all we did was eat.
Thank you. Beverly.
Not related to the other Smiths.
That may be. My name is Mike Smith. I met Beverly a few years back on the Grand River Expedition. This was an expedition we started paddling from Jackson down to Lake Michigan. It was a 10-day paddle, 225 odd miles. So anyway, I got to know Beverly on this trip through a number of occasions and responsibilities. Part of Beverly's job was to, at the end of the day, find a location, GPS marking, and whatever else was going on there. And so she'd get a hold of me because I had a GPS, and always just in her kindest voice ever, well, Mike, and of course I'd be busy and it'd be hot. And okay, everybody bothers anybody, but when Beverly says in her, her sweet little voice, hey, Mike, could you come over here for a minute? Well, of course I can. Drop everything I'm doing, walk out in the middle of the river and take a reading. What's the elevation here? Anything Beverly wants, Beverly gets. And this went on for 10 days. And of course, it went on even, for years and years thereafter, because we'd have reunions, we'd have parties on the river, all kinds of adventures. And then here just a few years back, there was another race/adventure. It was called the Tip of the Mitt. So we started a race/adventure. We had a 28-foot Voyager canoe, 8 to 10 man, put in at Mackinac Bridge. We was going to race down to Manistee. Well, I got the crew together for the boat, but I needed a land crew. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be a pretty tough one. You get a land crew, you got to have somebody that's going to have the ability to get along with a lot of different people. You never know where you're going to end up at the end of the day. And I'm thinking, I got to get a hold of Beverly. She gets along with everybody. She doesn't fault. She just has got it together. So anyway, I give her a call. Wait, Beverly, you'd be interested in doing this tip of the mitt race? And well, of course, she says. And we got all hooked up. And what an adventure that was! Because every day, this took us like 7 days to get down there. We had all kinds of weather and trials and tribulations, but Beverly just always had everything together. She is the ultimate organizer. And that's one of the reasons I kind of picked her. Now, how are you going to pick somebody to ramrod a bunch of rowdy racers. I mean, this is a bunch of, these guys are out there. And girls, and, the Bradfords and Doties and Don Harper. They had the whole gang there, the whole paddling crew. But it was always just the hoot to have Beverly around and in charge and organizing, especially being the land crew, to held it all together and got us all there. And this is just some of the moments and through the years. And I'm just very thankful. Beverly, you've just been a sweetheart. Thank you very much for being a friend. Love you.
Good evening. My name is Doug Beiswinger. I know I'm excited to be here tonight. I met Beverly about 11 years ago. I've been waiting 10 years now to roast her, so I'm pretty excited to be here tonight. I'm just kidding. I won't roast you, Bev. Bev and I were introduced by a mutual friend that was Google. So in 2008, after the tragic death of our son Adam to cancer, my wife and I, Sarah, wanted to make a difference in the Jackson community. And I'm a redneck. I don't know how to do anything. So I Google, find Bev, and we go and meet with Bev, and we said, hey, we want to do this charity in Jackson that helps families that have lost children or children that have lost parents or spouses or whatever it may be. And Bev says, I'm in. And I said, well, I don't know what we're doing. She said, we'll figure it out. So we started this charity about 11 years ago. Beverly was a founding board member for Another Day, Another Memory, or ADAM. She was our lead facilitator, most of all. She was a friend to our family and so many more in the organization. Sitting on the board, Beverly also taught me that board meetings always go better with wine. The organization provides the group support that we talked about. We started the organization in an abandoned school, so I've heard a lot of stories about Beverly and education and schooling this evening. I was surprised you ended up in an abandoned school with me to get this going, but we did. 3 years later, we purchased a building that's freestanding. I want to share a couple of purely amazing moments that Beverly taught as our facilitator and teaching me in this process. So I had two ideas. Beverly has this amazing way of, are there any counselors in the room or, okay. So, sorry, Bev. She has the nicest way, I think she calls it winding them back. So she'll ask a question, and I'll give you one here. It'd be an open-ended question, right? Because that's what counselors are supposed to ask to get people talking. And she'll say, pick a color that describes how you feel. However, somebody in the group always has to go on some wild tangent about, it's an easy question. It's blue, because the sky's blue. It's black, because I don't feel good today. What is blue with stripes and polka dots? And Beverly just sits there with that peaceful smile, just staring at them. Yup. Nodding, acknowledging them, their feelings. And here I am in the other chair in the room. I want to crawl out of my skin. I'm like, it was a simple question. Just how do you feel? But Beverly taught me a lot. And now I can smile and sit there and nod in the back of my mind, still wanting to crawl out of my skin, but and just eventually wind them back in. So then Bev taught me that grief doesn't always have to be sad. Sometimes it can be happy. So she taught me another word association. I call them games. I know in the counseling world they're not really games, but again, I'm a redneck. I'm not a counselor. So she taught me about this other one, a word association game, and it kind of goes like this. And in your mind, out in the room here tonight, if you could, if I said, I want you to describe a cup of coffee. And so I'm like, okay, I'm in the room. I'm like, hot and steamy. So you had to write this on a piece of paper, and then Beverly goes around, you've got to read your piece of paper. The only thing that I didn't know was that when Beverly, before we read our piece of paper, she tells us, well, how you describe a cup of coffee is also how you describe your love life. So I'm not sure if I ever really understood that game, Bev, but I do thank you for making my wife blush in the room that evening. So 10 years later, our organization was acquired by a multi-million-dollar organization and is expanding from Jackson County to Lenawee and Hillsdale County as well. Our son's legacy lives on because of folks like Beverly's contributions in mind and spirit both. You're an angel. On behalf of Adam, its facilitators, volunteers, and families, and all those in our organization whose lives you've changed tremendously, happy birthday. We love you.
The one that you've been waiting for, eh?
The last one.
So I'm listening, like all of you, to all these wonderful things. I'm Brad Smith. I guess my connection is Diane's husband, the New Year's party person, but we also go to church with Beverly. So I'm listening to all of these stories, and it just, you probably, I think of it in two categories. There's the giving aspect of Beverly. She's such a giver, right? Like Frances, and and the experiences and the generosity, the compassion. I made a list here. Everybody's already talked about these. Well, one you didn't talk about. She was of the church of our clerk. Remember that? You served as church clerk. The nurse, the grief counselor, the board member of Adam, all these things I didn't even know. This memorial that Randy talked about, that's a pretty big thing. I mean, she bought all these lots in the cemetery, and she's going to give them, like, it's going to be a place where parents who are grieving can have a spot to, put a little plaque on, just with their first name, or no name, but it's a place where they can grieve. The grief counselor stuff, it's, she's such a giver. And it's really unusual, in my experience, to know somebody that is so generous and so compassionate, but then she lives life. She has a zest for life. And so she's a taker, but she's not a taker in a bad way. She's not a taker like me. She's a taker in the sense that God has given her an allotted number of days, and you have sucked the life out of those days. She used to send me stuff, maybe you remember, but she always thought I'd be a good minister. So she would send me all these clippings, and she'd say, oh, this would be a good sermon if you ever wanted to give a sermon. And some of them were pretty funny. Like, she sent me an Irma. Do you guys know who Irma Bombeck is? She would send me Irma Bombeck clippings, and I say, boy, I don't quite get the connection. It's like, what do you think of your coffee type thing? I don't know. Anyway, she is a taker in the sense that she takes life. She kayaks 225 miles down the Grand River. Iceland, Russia. I asked her this morning, I said, do you have 2 minutes to just, what were your favorite trips? And she rattled off like half a dozen, and then she texted me a half a dozen more. I won't even go through them all. Manitoba, elephants in Kenya. So we really do need to take a lesson from Beverly. She's a giver. Jennifer, you were talking about this. And Janet, you guys said it better than I could. Like, that's what God wants us to be. He wants us to take life, This is such a gift. And she has taken life, and she has sucked it all out of it. And what an example. And at the same time, what a giver. How many people's lives in this town, in this country, have been so affected by her? So I would like to close with a prayer. Randy, maybe you were going to close with a prayer, but if you could just bow your heads with me. God, thank you for this child of yours. Thank you for sharing her with us. Thank you for all the lessons that she has taught us. Let us cherish those thoughts and take her as our example along with your precious son who laid down his life for us. So we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. And I agree. Who was it that said, Janet, the pecan pie? That's what she will be remembered for.
Thank you, Brad. She was right. You're a good preacher. So we're going to have some cake, and we're going to sing Happy Birthday. You can take a break. The restrooms are out there someplace. I'm sure you can figure that out. But we want you to come back. There's still some stories out there. One of the things I neglected to do, Pastor Lucas has a message, too, that I have. And I took care of my computer first. So come back and listen to Pastor Lucas's short message and tell some stories. If you want to tell a story, you can do that. But enjoy it. We got Paul and Phyllis Scheffel, my brother and my sister-in-law, I guess, and my other brother, Daryl, Nate Shuffles. They're cousins. You're all cousins, right? But and then come on back. We're going to have the cake, and we got somebody that's going to help us sing Happy Birthday. We need a little help with the Happy Birthday. Okay.
Hey, Beverly.
If any of you'd like to tell another story or two, we can do that. I don't want to leave this evening without getting Pastor Lucas's message, because I asked him to do this especially for us tonight. So let's see if we can get sound with us too.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all having a great time. Kim and I are sad that we were not able to be with you this evening, but Beverly, we wanted to wish you a happy birthday. And I also wanted to thank you for your many, many years of ministry to this church here at Somerset Congregational Church, and also to the many, many men and women you have been able to bless through your grief counseling over many, many years. It takes a very special type of person to be able to do that. And God has gifted you both with the emotion and the knowledge to do such an amazing thing for so many people. We just want to say God bless you, Beverly. We love you, and we are so thrilled that so many of your friends and family could be together tonight to celebrate your birthday, and also celebrate how God has gifted you and done so many wonderful, amazing things through you. So God bless everyone who's there tonight, and God bless you, Beverly. Hope you have a wonderful birthday.
I apologize for forgetting about that earlier. That should have been on first. So, anyway, does anybody else have a story they want to share about Beverly?
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Carey, like Mariah or Harry, spelled just that way. Beverly and I have known each other for a couple of decades or more, and I knew from the minute we met that it was an act of Providence. So in her honor, I've been a church musician for 67 years, and so I haven't got the energy to sing. But between Elvis and Amazing Grace, I thought we'd give you a good event. Sorry I didn't know about the bagpipes because he just played one of my songs. Amazing Bev, beloved friend, we share our life with you. Our journeys blend and swirl in dance, our dear beloved friend. The Lord has promised good to us, and he is our beacon light. Each moment shared in love and care is purpose from above. 'Twas grace that brought us here today, and grace that leads us on. That grace has kept us safe so far. Grace, peace has just begun. We love you. I'll never hear that song again the same. I'm going to be singing those forever. And I'll end with Elvis. But this is my story about Beverly and I. We met through our work as nurse and social worker, and it was obvious to both of us that our lives had been purposely intertwined. Our interest and passionate advocacies, life events, and travel, every enthusiasm, not to mention books, real books, music and other arts, blended seamlessly right from the beginning. Sometimes serendipity guides our meetings. Other time, it was enthusiastically planned. Events both large and small, here, in the hospital, anywhere, everywhere. All occasions were added to or guided to us in each of our areas of service. We always accompanied each other in any way that continued to refresh our connections, and neither time nor distance has been able to sever or touch the deep bond we have. So I share my first memory impression of Beverly. I beheld the most strikingly beautiful woman in flowing garments of perfectly chosen colors, with the most perfectly groomed Gibson girl hairstyle I had ever seen outside of a movie magazine. Her gentle manner was matched by her perfectly modulated voice, and her entire demeanor radiated warmth, comfort, and a complete aura of hospitality in all of her presence with everyone. Those gifts are yours in abundance, Bev, and it's clear to anyone who comes in your presence that you are truly gift and a treasured companion on our journeys. Such bonds can never be broken. Happy birthday, beloved friend. And whenever I think of you, I thank God. Bless your life. So, in one of her talks, she usually gives in grief work, when she explains to us at churches and such, how important it is to remember what we're saying as adults so the children don't get the wrong idea. So she came to our church one day and he said, "Are you going to tell the story of the polar bear?" And she said, yeah. "Are you going to tell the story of getting lost?" "Yes." This is her polar bear story, which I tell forever to everyone. When we talk on the phone and say, we lost Charlie today. So little Michael, that was his great-grandpa. And he would not go to the funeral because who was going to be there at the door when Grandpa came back and he wasn't lost anymore? But the polar bear one was unique, only unique to Beverly. And I said, "What are you going to do with polar bears?" She said, "Listen, my dear. Here is Charlie waiting to go to Aunt Martha's funeral." And his mother said, "You will really be gracious to everybody. You be polite. You say thank you. These are the magic words. And Uncle John's going to be a pallbearer. The funeral's over. They come back home. And little Charlie's really upset. He's crying. His mother said, "Honey, what's the matter?" "I didn't see any polar bears." She said, "Polar bears?" She said, "Well, you said Uncle Mike was going to be a pole bearer." So we really have to listen to what we said. We said what we knew we heard. That isn't what little Michael heard. And it was a wonderful way. I mean, that's one of Beverly's gifts. But she can take these little pieces that sound so minuscule to us, but make a huge difference in how a family and a child, and oh heck, those of us who can't hear much anymore, I could hear that. So as I finish this story, and the joy of my beloved friend, Elvis and I are going to tell you a song. And the song is our love song to Beverly. Wise friends say that our Bev's so dear, we can't help falling in love with her. Like a river flows surely to the sea, all embraced by your irresistibility. So take our hands, take our whole lives too. We can't help falling in love with you, for we all have fallen in love with you.
Well, one memory of Beverly is she came up about 2-3 years ago to Molino, to my grandma's house, and she was in the kitchen, and well, she gave me a Canada pin. She told me she was from Michigan, and we sang a song from Pensacola Christian. I didn't know she went there until she actually mentioned it, but we recited a song together, and it was one of my favorite songs. I sang it at a church one time, my old church, and I hope Beverly would sing the first verse of it with me. Low in the grave he lay, Jesus my Savior, waiting for the coming day, Jesus my Lord. Up from the grave he arose, with mighty trump over foes. He rose from a victor from the dark domain, and he lives forever with the saints to reign. He arose, hallelujah, Christ arose.
I'm, as most of you know that are still left here, a Michigan cousin. And I think I was maybe about 10 or so when Aunt Bev moved up to Michigan. And that's the bingo party Sam mentioned earlier. She would hold it for all of us cousins, and she would always have it at her house. And they were always a lot of fun. We still look forward to them every year, fondue and bingo. It was our first time ever having fondue. Absolutely loved it. We also loved when her boys would come up and visit and their southern accents. Absolutely loved the southern accents. We loved them. That was just it. We got the plain Midwestern one, and you guys got those lovely southern accents. So we'd love it when they'd come up to visit. But so lots of fond memories of Aunt Bev's fondue and bingos. But one of my favorite memories of Aunt Bev was when, were you 13? I was 15. Church mission trip. We went to Mexico City, Mission Mazawa, down there, and Aunt Bev went with my sister and I, and Paul and Betty did both. Paul and Betty St. Amour, the youth group leaders. And it was a wonderful time, wonderful experience. And my favorite part of the trip was New Year's Eve, Aunt Bev smoking a cigar on the rooftop of the building at the Hacienda. So she was like, I don't even remember the gentleman that was there that they smoked, but we had pictures. We weren't to tell anybody, but New Year's Eve, mission trip in Mexico, Aunt Bev, and Aunt Bev smoking a cigar on the roof. That's one of my favorite memories with Aunt Bev, besides all the wonderful family events that she's held over the years. We love you, Aunt Bev.
I'm hearing things tonight I didn't know about you. She won't buy me beer because she's a Baptist, and if another Baptist sees her, she's going to go to hell. She'll take the cans back or the bottles back, but she won't buy them. After the cigar thing, I think you need to maybe ease up on that. So you might have heard Archimedes say once, give me a lever long enough and I can move the world. And Beverly's motto has been, give me a hemostat and algebra and I can conquer the world. That was it. A hemostat fixes everything for her. So how about somebody else? Anybody else? We don't want to leave anybody out tonight. Oh, what do you think? She's tired, yeah. She's going to pay for that for a couple of days. This has been a great night. It's been a great night to get the family together. And I'm so glad you came. I'm so glad you stayed. This has been a wonderful time. She looks forward to this for so long. And we all